Welcome, welcome, welcome. Welcome to our stress-free zone course, online course. I'm so excited to spend today with you, teaching you different practical skills and coping skills, and then just practical skills that you can implement in your life to begin to reduce stress. Stress is very important. It's something that we're going to talk about today. I want to give you some time to gather a pen, paper, and then feel free to ask questions at the end. So if something that I say that comes up that you need clarity on, you want to talk about, we can talk about that toward the end of the course. So please, 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 I'm going to give you a few minutes to gather all of your belongings and for everyone to join us. Once again, welcome, 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 welcome. Also on our welcome screen, you will be able to see just how you can get in contact with me, how you can connect with me in the future. I'm on social media, on Instagram, Periscope, as well as Facebook. And then also I have incorporated my contact email, telephone number. So if you're in need of mental health services, you will know how to find me or refer me. I am Shayna, and I am a clinical mental health counselor. I enjoy what I do. I am the founder also of Treasured Mind LLC, where we work together to break mental barriers, building community, and just encouraging and acknowledging and building understanding to bring awareness when it comes to mental health. Mental health is not just for individuals that have been diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis, such as depression, schizophrenia, and several other diagnoses, although I work with patients who have been diagnosed with a mental health diagnosis, but it's also important to understand that we all are responsible for mental health. And mental health understanding, having good cognitive recall, being able to make decisions and take care of ourselves, being balanced, healthy, self-care. These are all things that incorporate a person's mental health. Just as we have physical health, we also have mental health. And so one of the components that causes destruction when it comes to our mental health is stress. And so I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to go ahead and get started. If those that begin to join us, once again, please feel free to write down your questions. And then at the end, at the bottom of the screen, you'll see where it says Q&A. You'll be able to drop your questions in there. I will go back and ask questions. And then also, once again, please feel free to connect with me. And thank you so much for joining me on this Saturday morning. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So welcome once again. And so my mission is always breaking mental barriers to move, and we're moving forward. Although we may have different mental health diagnosis or different mental health struggles and that we may be battling with, it's so important that we understand that we can move forward. We can move forward. We can move forward. And so let's get started. Are you ready? Are you ready? Please share your name and where you are joining us from in the chat box. As we begin to get started, please share where you're from and your name in the chat box, And I want to shout you out. Okay. So what is stress? What is stress? And what are a few causes of stress? So stress is mental and or emotional strain resulting from demanding or overwhelmed circumstances. And sometimes we can go through different components and different things in our life, and we need to understand that what are some of these things. Stress, I feel like, is something that we really cannot uh, hide from at times. We only can learn how to manage it, because something is going to come up in our life, and it's not always expected, that is going to cause us to feel pressure, or going to cause us to feel weight. And how do we manage that? Our goal is always to manage those points and those stressors well. And so a few things could be divorce. You could actually be going through a divorce and or just, finish recently divorced. That can cause stress, not just stress for you, but also stress for your family. And also stress for your family. So divorce is something that is heavy, not just for the individuals that's going through it, but also the children, the family that's connected. So divorce is something that can also cause stress. Another thing that can cause stress is getting married, right? I can recall getting married to my husband, and we're coming up on our 3rd year of marriage this year. But in the beginning, I can remember just not knowing all of the answers, or not even knowing even all of the questions to ask. And it was a very, very stressful time to go through. And then just not knowing a safe place or people who could understand what I was going through at that time. It wasn't a lot of people around me that were married or that I had been able to recognize as being married. So it was very stressful beginning to prepare and go through a journey, embarking in a new life, and then not understanding, even sometimes not even knowing the questions to ask, right? Because that can also be stressful. The loss of a job. So losing your job can cause major stress for yourself and for your family. Your financial gain and your financial gain, your financial responsibility to your family, losing your job can have a drastic change in it. And so that can cause stress. Death of a loved one. So death is something that is very hard to, and causes a lot of stress, because there's 7 different stages of stress. And you can literally go from grief and loss and blame and guilt literally back to grief, loss, blame, and guilt. And these things can surface in your life and be triggered by different things. It's hard to really control. Sometimes it can be triggered self-consciously, but these are some things that can happen and can cause stress. Also, chronic illness. A lot of individuals who are diagnosed with a chronic illness, such as hypertension and diabetes, it can cause them to have a lot of stress, because not only are you having to be more mindful of your diet and your physical intake and exercising, but now you have to be responsible for taking medication possibly on a regular basis. And so taking medication, affording the medication, getting the medication, remembering to order medication, not running out, ordering before you run out. All of these are things that can cause extra pressure or stressors in your life. Another thing is emotional problems. So emotional problems such as depression and or anxiety, to name a few, can cause stress, right? Because not only are these diagnoses mental health diagnoses, but also your emotions can be all over the place. So you can literally go from feeling okay, feeling sad, from feeling okay, feeling stable, to then all of a sudden feeling sad and feeling lonely, feeling unheard, feeling left out. And so these are just a few things out of many that we can name that can cause stress in your life. Okay. Ways to know if you're experiencing stress. Okay, so this is something that is very important to me, because a lot of times I don't know about you if you've ever experienced, but someone will come up to you and they'll say, "Hey, how are you?" And the response would be, "Oh, I'm doing great, I'm doing fine, or I'm okay, or I'm okay." And deep inside, individuals really don't take time to do a assessment, or to recall, how are you actually feeling in that moment? Are you actually okay, or are you feeling some type of way, or you need support or assistance? A lot of times, especially as caregivers, if you're a caregiver, you can get so used to taking care of your children, taking care of your husband, taking care of your home, and you forget to take care of yourself. Also, you can be a leader. And so leaders have a lot of times where they just take on the role of getting things done, getting the job done, and leading and trying to be a good like a good example, but their needs and sometimes their emotional needs or their support kind of sometimes falls on the back burner because they're so worried and so indulged in others. And so this is important to identify ways to identify, are you really experiencing stress? Because sometimes we may not know. And so ways, so not balancing relaxation and work. So I don't know about you, but I enjoy working. I especially enjoy doing things that I am called to do or assigned to do. And so sometimes I can get caught up in the motion of working. But if I'm not balancing work with relaxation, because how can I recharge? How can I regroup? Does that mean that I'm pouring from an empty cup? Does that mean I'm stretching myself thin? So that means that I'm not probably showing up, giving it my best, showing my all. And so not balancing work, relaxation with work is important. So if you're doing more of one and not the other, that's important for you to be mindful of. Another thing is chest pain. So a lot of men, especially African-American men, middle-aged African-American men, have been dying from heart attack and heart disease because not only do they not go to the doctor to get checked up on, they are workers. And so most of the time, they are providers for their home, providers for their family, leaders. They wear a lot of different hats as well. And they're just working. They're not getting the mental and or physical support and help that they need. And so sometimes having chest pain, and we can sometimes charge chest pain to gas. A lot of women die, especially it's a higher rate even of women having heart attacks because they have chest pain from stressors, that's underlying conditions, but they're not taking care of themselves as well. And they chalk it up, to actually having indigestion or having gas. And so a lot of your times you'll see that they have passed away due to a heart attack, because in women, that's our number one symptom. If you're experiencing, especially in the left side of your body or chest, any type of pain, you want to be mindful of that, because it could be stress, but it also could be a warning signal that you may be going through more stress than your body can take, and you don't want to bleed and have it progress into other things. And so you want to get that checked out. Lethargic. Are you tired? Now, this is not saying that you are just, tired because you've had a long day's work, you're chasing the children, you're washing and you're cooking and all of that, because rightfully so, after a long day's work, you're going to be tired. But are you lethargic, meaning that you can sleep 8 to 10 hours at night, and when you wake, you're still extremely tired as if you never slept? That's something that you want to be mindful of and you want to take note of. I always recommend my clients to have a journal or keep a pen and pad of paper with you, because when you're experiencing things, what it does is it allows you in that moment to write it down. So if you're not thinking about it, don't have time to think about it right then and there, it allows you to go back and you can remember, okay, actually I was experiencing this, or no, I haven't slept in a couple of days, or yeah, I am extremely tired. And it could be something not stress, but it could be something physically related, but then it'll at least give you a targeting point of where to start. Because if you are low in like vitamin D, on other vitamins, natural vitamins, or these a lot of things that have to be weaving out, but you still at least have a source and a target point of knowing, okay, something is wrong. Increase in substance use. So a lot of times when you're experiencing stress, you can self-medicate and self-regulate. And so sometimes you see that you may drink more wine or drink more alcohol or smoke more cigarettes or smoke, marijuana, whatever your drug of choice may be. But you'll notice that you may go from doing it socially or recreationally. And then now we have increased to doing this on a regular basis. And so now this begins to have an increase in substance use, and now you're self-medicating. And so you may want to talk to someone about that before you get to that point. Poor management. So most times you may notice your regular routine is something that you're good at managing because you're used to managing it. And so it's not something different for you. It's not hard, but you may notice that when there's pressure and added stress, it's really hard for you to manage your normal routines. It's hard. It's not easy. You begin to be overwhelmed and frustrated. And so you may have a difficult time with managing. distracted. So your attention and your focus is all over the place. You notice that you're not completing tasks, or your norm where you're able to complete and do certain things, maybe with the family, with your children, it's not quite the same. You're not able to do that. And so these are just some things that you want to be mindful of, that if you're having a difficult time focusing. Another thing that can be, and it's, I guess, a way that you can know if you're experiencing more stress than usual is short-tempered and or snappy. So are you short-tempered with everyone? Are you snapping off? Are you, not really want to socialize? Or when the children, are you yelling at them more than usual? And these are some things that maybe a sign as well. And last, but many others, I just want to name a few, is being withdrawn. So do you notice that you are withdrawn? You're isolating. You're not really engaged. You're not really focused. You're not really paying attention. You don't really want to socialize with anyone. Are you just wanting to stay to yourself? Are you staying in the home? Are you not calling your friends or your loved ones like you would normally do? So you're kind of pulling away because you don't want to add any extra pressure, or you don't. And another thing is withdrawn is tricky too, because sometimes you'll say, hey, I don't want to bother anybody, or everybody got stuff going on, so this is another way that your mind and can psychologically trick you to believe that you don't have help and you can't get help because you'll be a burden to someone. But in all actuality, that's just really your internal thoughts that are manifesting in it that you're saying. And so those are just a few signs of being withdrawn. And so we want to be mindful of that. So if you notice that you are experiencing any of these or have experienced any of these things in the past, you want to notate it and be mindful and speak with someone, check in with someone if you can. The next thing is, what are a few things or a few ways, actually, let's go back to some of the effects of stress. Okay. And so I talked about ways that you can kind of know that you're experiencing more stress than usual, but then I also wanted to talk about the effects of stress, because this is really the important part of why I put together this course. And so that's because the effects of stress is greater than just, right, identifying as major. But we have to do something with the identification. We can't no longer just say, oh, okay, I'll get over it, I'm okay. We have to implement tools and things that we can manage well, right? Because what are some effects? You can have sick elements. So you can begin to have develop high blood pressure, diabetes, migraines. These are just to name a few of the physical results of stress. You can be distracted. So you can have distractions, meaning you're not completing tasks and stuff, nervousness. So if stress can cause you to be nervous. I hear a lot of people, they have like these shakes, and sometimes that it could be a physical thing. It could be genetic. But then it could just be your burden and you have like stress that's built up inside and you're not managing it well. Mental illness, right? Mental illness, mental issues, depression, anxiety, a lot of that we even see at the age of 21, like 19 to 21, those who have been at that point diagnosed with schizophrenia. A lot of times you notice that there's first generation college students that have went away for school, and their first semester they begin to have those environmental pressures and stress, and then that begins to surface symptoms, right? So stress can also affect and elaborate symptoms. Agitation, so just being agitated, not wanting to be around people, irritating, overwhelmed, being angry, having anger, right? Anger is a very toxic emotion, and not to say that, and I won't say that it's a toxic emotion. I would say it's a toxic emotion if not expressed in a healthy way, because sometimes we don't express it well, and so it can be toxic. Frustration, you can be frustrated. Everything is a burden. Everything is a task for you if you're stressed, because you're carrying so much. You're overwhelmed. Loss of appetite. So you can even be so stressed out that your appetite is not the same. You're not eating at least 2 meals a day. You're stressed out. You're overwhelmed. And also loss of sleep. A lot of people experience insomnia when they are going through stressful times in their life. They are not sleeping. And then sometimes actually we see the reverse of that, where the individual may sleep more than usual. So they're sleeping 10, 12 plus hours a day because they just don't have the energy or mental capacity to deal with life. Tension, right? So you can be so on the edge, just so overwhelmed, so on the edge with just tension, having tension. And so these are just a few effects of stress that I wanted us to talk about. Now let's talk about a few ways to cope. A few ways to cope. What is coping? Coping is taking and being aware of what's going on, but then implementing what you need to get to where you need to go. That's my layman general point blank term that we use. And so that's that. So let's talk about it. So a few ways to cope with stress: meditation. So what is meditation? You know, I'm not saying to, you know, meditation is really clearing your mind, clearing your thoughts. But I want to say, once you clear your mind and clear your thoughts, let's replace those things with positive affirmations. Let's not be empty minded, right? Because I feel like sometimes if you are dormant, or your mind is empty and it's racing, and you have nothing to build yourself up and to replenish yourself, then that's not healthy either. So we want to think on things that are lovely, that are pure, that are of God, you know, that's positive affirmations that reminds us of who we are. Right. And so stress balls. So I love stress balls, or sometimes I would just have something in my hand that is a good grounding technique to redirect those to redirect that tension and that pressure. It allows you to release it. And stress balls, yes, they're small, but they're something that you can squeeze that can kind of exercise those hand muscles and to release some stress. Aromatherapy. So I love candles. I love scented candles. I love Bath and Body Works scented candles, because I feel like you can go there and you can get all different types of scents, and you can put it around your home, you can put it around your workplace, you can even buy them to go in your car, and so aromatherapy is very therapeutic. A few scents that really work well with regulating stress is eucalyptus, and then also lavender. And so these are some scents that you can actually go to a vitamin store or natural herb store, and you can just buy them in raw form. And they sometimes come in an oil, or like I say, you can get it in a candle form. You can go to Bath and Body Works or any other natural vitamin store and purchase these too. So it's lavender and eucalyptus. These are things that cause in your brain, when it smells these particular scents, it triggers it to say, hey, it's resting time. Hey, it's calm down time. And so I love it. It's amazing. And so I also put that eucalyptus and lavender oils on there. So self-care, right? So I was having a conversation with my friend on yesterday, and she was saying, you know, you tell everybody about self-care. And I'm like, yes, I am an advocate for self-care. Self-care is the best, right? Because that means you're putting yourself first. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot give what you don't have. So you have to constantly remind yourself it's important to fill yourself up. And so each thing that I do that you can try is, before my week begin, or before my month begin, I schedule my month in the middle. So I schedule the next month. For example, my month of August is scheduled the 2nd to 3rd week of July, the month before, because what I want to do is make sure I have time in there for myself. So I schedule my self-care. I let my husband know that this is my day that I'm going to take out for myself. And I, you know, if it's going to be involved with friends or family, I plan around that so we're all on the same page. And then I try to do something that I'm going to enjoy, that's going to make me feel calm and relaxed and replenished, right? It's so important to me. Now, that's just once a month, but throughout the week or throughout the day, I try to also implement small things. So like drinking a cup of coffee for me is self-care, because it's simple. I can have my coffee maker. I can make me a cup of coffee or two in the morning while I'm doing my work or while I'm getting my day started, and that's self-care for me. And so sometimes I think when I talk about self-care, most time, and especially when I'm talking to moms, they begin to think that that's one more thing or another burden that's added that they have to do and they have to get done. But I want you to not think of it in that way. I want you to think of it in a way of refueling, building yourself back up. And a lot of times they think, okay, I don't have a babysitter. I don't have anywhere to take the children. And so one thing that I had to learn to do is I have to wake up early. So while my daughter is sleeping, I'm up early, even maybe an hour or two before her, you know, some days, not every day. But during this time, I can pray, I can meditate, I can have a cup of coffee, or I can read, or I can just breathe, you know, do something that I want to do for myself. And that's so important to know, that don't feel like you're robbed and taken away and can't do anything, especially if you don't have the support always that you need. Make it work for you. Physical exercise is always good, because you're releasing endorphins, and those are things that our body loves to release, because it's like our happy hormone. Just one, you know, and so it releases those things, and it's also healthy for us physically and mentally. It resets us, it recharges us, and it rebuilds us. And so exercise is good. Diet. What you put in your body is what you're going to get out. And so sometimes if you're eating a lot of quick food, junk food, fast food is not always good for your mind, and it's not always good for your body, and it's definitely not good when your body is already overwhelmed with stress, because what your body does is it holds on to those fat cells, and it because it keeps it's really, it looks at it as far as comfort. And so you want to just be mindful of what you're taking in. And sometimes if you're not eating right because of stress and you are a emotional eater, you can notice that you go a lot to salts and sugar, salt and sugar. So salt and sugar is like an added drug that your body cleaves to and holds on to. And it's just as bad as drinking Pepsi, or it's just as bad as, doing some type of hard narcotic, because the mind, the medulla where we have memory, it says, hey, I love this. I want more. I want more. I want more. And it actually uses that to regulate things in your body. And so be mindful of your diet. Therapy, right? So therapy is important. Therapy is not just for individuals that are going through it and having problems. Therapy I use the example of therapy as being a car maintenance. So your car that you drive, that you get in, and you fuel it up with gas, and you're driving around from point A to point B, you understand that it's important that there's a time, and it doesn't matter if you're driving a Chevy or a Lexus, you have to go get an oil change, a tune-up. You got to go get your car checked on. And this is done after so many miles, or up to every 3 months, or around that time. And so that's what I look at therapy as doing, as a fuel up, as a reset, a recharge, a realignment. And so this is time that you have to speak with someone that is not biased, non-biased, and that you can express yourself and get support and feedback and help, and sometimes redirection and counsel. And so use therapy as a tool, ongoing tool, not just a tool for when things are all bad. Another thing is accountability partner. I don't know about you, but me just getting accountability partner, someone to check in on me, to push me and hold me accountable for my actions or my behaviors, holding me accountable for my goals for life. Having that accountability partner really helped me, right? Helped me move forward, because I would get so caught up in my mind and my head that I was not being effective or being diligent of the things that I want to do. So these are just a few things that you want to be mindful of. And so I'm now going to talking about 4 techniques that you can use, that you can implement, that are practical things, practical tools that you can use and implement in your life to begin to experience a decrease in stress and to produce change in positive ways in your life. And so the first one is shut off. Shut off, right? You want to shut off, right? So you have to recharge, reset, and release. So shut off, to close, to stop, to block, to exit something. Most times when you are tired and or your brain isn't receiving enough oxygen to your brain, you will shut off, right? You lose focus. You no longer are able to engage. Your brain is no longer controlling your body. Now you are in disalignment. You're unbalanced, right? It's important that you get at least 6 to 8 hours of sleep per day. This helps the body and the mind reset, realign, release, right? You can't be going off of fuel. So during this time of shut off from interruption or distraction, it allows you to reboot. This concept kind of helps you even during a crisis. Example, a few crises: losing your job, getting divorced, or being involved in an accident. These are things that lead to drastic change in behavior and mood. And so you want to be mindful that shutting off, having that quiet time, that downtime to realign, reset, and release, you'll see a big difference. Take breaks from people, places, and things. Also social media. I don't know about you, but sometimes when we go on social media, it's full. I don't watch the news pretty much at all, but when I get on there, it's just so full of like negative, bad things that then causes me to worry and think and have stress. But then I notice, like, okay, if I don't watch the news, but I go on Facebook, I'm getting the same reaction, right? Because it's like the secondary in the news. If whatever they put on the news, there's someone that's going to take it and put it on their social media. And so sometimes I have to take breaks from social media, pull back, and just have shut off time so that I'm not on there taking in and digesting through my eyes or my ears and emotions, right? I'm not getting drained and burned out. So taking time for that. And one of the ways that you can, especially if you have an iPhone, or I I'm not sure if Android has this, but it'll tell you like screen time, and, you know, put limits on your screen time. And they're looking at, you know, it calculates how often you're going on these different social media platforms. And you may notice I'm spending more time on social media than I'm spending in meditation on positive things and realigning my energy. And so you want to be mindful of that. The goal is to refocus and to recalibrate. So when you are shutting off, it's not saying that you want to be withdrawn, and not saying that you are isolating, but what it's saying is, hey, I want to refocus. I want to recalibrate. I want to refocus my focus. I want to realign. You know, this is just refueling back up. And how long that looks and how long that takes, it really depends on you. You know, like I do maybe an hour here, an hour there throughout the day, or that may mean by a certain time of the day, you want to shut things off, you know. So what does that look like for you? You want to be able to put things in place, but you also want to be able to manage it, because that's the only way consistency brings a positive effect. Identify discomfort and or anger. So we talked a little bit about anger earlier in the course, but it's harder than it seems. It's harder than it seems. I'm just going to be honest. It's harder than it seems. To put discomfort and anger in words. Most times our body may respond before we can verbally explain what's going on in the moment. And that could be your facial expression, your body temperature can change. So your mind kind of catches up after your body when it comes to discomfort and anger. And so you want to pay attention to that. So sometimes we can experience blackout. So depending on how angry you get or how uncomfortable you may get, you may black out. You may have poor recall. You may have experienced rage. And I don't know if you all have experienced any of these things before in the past, but intensified stress and pressure can cause you to go into a place of discomfort and anger. And these are some things that you can experience. So one thing that I always recommend is to begin to note what and who trigger you, and then create boundaries. So how do you create boundaries? You create boundaries by identifying a safe place, a safe person, and a safe escape. And so like if this was to ever happen to you again, how would you manage it? So being preventive and proactive allows you to have a stronger grip and a more planned time. And then these are just strategies and coping and practical skills, not only for you, but share these with your children, share these with other family members to implement that can help them, especially if you're noticing that they're experiencing some of these levels of stress currently in their life as well. I mean, you know, just with the time that we're going through right now, it's important to have these tools and understand that you can get through it. And so stress, right? It not only affects one part of your life, but it affects all of it. It affects your body. It affects your mind. It affects your emotions. It affects your behavior. So it affects everything about you. And so that's why I wanted to do this course, to be able to help you provide some focus and some strategies. So like your body, when you're experiencing constant headaches and migraines, your mind, when you're having those worrying and racing thoughts, when you're having loss of confidence or concentration, and you're more frustrated and irritable, and then even your behavior when you're having multiple accidents, car accidents, or just walking into things or falling, when you're having lack of appetite. These are some things that affect. That's how we can break it down. And this is like a whole 360 of how your mind and body affects and works together in congruence. Say no. Say no. I struggled with this. I struggled with saying no. I struggle with saying no because I enjoy helping people. I enjoy working with people, but I had to realize that was an area that I needed to strengthen my boundaries in, because whenever you're doing more for someone and it's actually causing you to feel hurt, discomfort, frustration, anger, or you're stretched thinner than you probably may already be, then it's time to learn how to say no. And so sometimes saying no can be hard. When saying no can feel like you are letting someone down. You can feel like you're missing out or lacking in the area. And so you want to understand that these are things that comes with saying no. Do you struggle with people pleasing? You know, that's something that I had to realize. You know, people pleasing, meaning that if you say no, you worry about if they're going to be your friend, or if they're going to talk to you, or if they're going to be angry or disappointed with you. This is something that you need to tighten up boundaries on. Do you struggle with codependent behavior, meaning how someone feels towards you affect how you feel towards yourself? And I'll say that again. How you feel toward, how a person feels towards you is an effect of how you feel towards yourself. That is a codependent behavior. For example, if your friend or boyfriend or husband or wife, if they don't say good morning or don't give you affirmations, you then begin to think you're ugly, or you then begin to think that you're not important to them. So that way, that what's something that they stopped doing or did reinforce who you felt that you are and how you look and how you're able to show up. And so that could be a codependent behavior that you want to probably assess. Reduce. And so saying no reduces burnout. Saying no reduces burnout. You're not stretched thin. You're not all over the place. You know, you're able to focus and start tasks and complete tasks. So you just want to, burnout is not good. So you want to prevent from being burnout. So saying no prevents burnout. And last, and but not least, it eliminates procrastination, right? Because when you are able to say no or commit to something, you're not double-minded, you're not unstable, you're not going back and forth, and it's not causing you to have increased continuously thinking about it, which then also increases stress. So then therefore you can start a task and complete a task. You're not being stretched thin, okay? So say no. And so the next thing is create boundaries. Oh my goodness, creating boundaries. Creating boundaries, honestly, is not easy. It's not. But it's really not, the boundaries are really not for the person or people that you need to create the boundaries for. It's honestly for you. What boundary says is that regardless of how you feel, what you do, what you don't do, I'm going to do this. And it's for my safety. It's for my my stabilization, is for my health. And so that's not always easy to do, right? So when you create boundaries, it's not for you. It's not for the other person or for the people or for the job or for the relationship. It's for you. And so this picture I felt was a good picture to identify your space, their space, and then that boundary is that small part that kind of keeps you all in the middle, right? That little part that said boundary, that little part that says boundary that separates you all, or that creates that band-aid or that cushion of life, is so important. Create boundaries. Boundaries are not for others, it's for you. Okay. Now this is going to be fun. And so I feel like this is another practical tool and or skill, and implement this and try this on your children at home. What is your attachment style? So let's play a game. I'm going to show you the next slide, and I want you to pick which character you are. And you can just write it down in your notebook. So you're going to pick which character you are. And if you can't, so you have Peppermint Patty, you have Lucy Van Pelt, you have Scrooter, and you have Charlie Brown. And so which person are you? Which person are you? Okay. And so I'm gonna give you a few minutes, like not having any general knowledge about attachment and how that works. I want you to just take a few minutes and just write down, just looking at the picture, right? Pictures are a million words, one picture. And I want you to just take time to see, and you don't to write down, just look at the pictures. What character would you say you are when it comes to attaching to people, when it comes to attaching to things or places? How do you do that? What does that look like for you? And I'm going to go walk us through a little bit about that. I'm going to walk us through, kind of what that looks like, and then how that affects and can trigger and regulate our stress. And I'll give you a minute to do so. Okay. Hopefully each person at this time is just taking a guess of how they are, how they attach, or their attachment style. So if we take a look at this picture, I was going to put a lot of different words up here, but I was like, nah, I don't want to do that because I want you to really understand how this is major and how this possibly is affecting your stress levels. And so if you look at the picture on the left-hand side where it says low anxiety of abandonment, and then you move to the right, it says high anxiety of abandonment. I thought it was pretty cool because I feel like the two characters on the left-hand side of the screen where it says low are, you look at the top and you see one that's like hi, and then you look at the bottom and he's like hiding, right? But then you go further to the right where there's a high anxiety of abandonment. You see them both standing up. No facial. One has their eyes open, one has their eyes closed, but for the most part, they're both standing on their 2 feet. And so most times when you have anxiety, so abandonment, meaning not only you may fear losing people, you also could possibly fear moving into different places or changing jobs or managing money because you can feel like you don't want to not have enough. These are also ways of stress. And so sometimes because we may internally fear something that we are, could possibly lose, that can cause abandonment anxiety. And so most times you'll find yourself in stressful situations because you possibly could be thinking about things that have happened to you in the past. And it also can show up in form of anxiety because you're thinking about things that happened in the past to you. And then you also think about things that you don't want to happen in the future. And so in your present, you're doing the best you can. It's like you're grasping straws or balloons or whatever with both of the hands you have, doing the best you can, whether that's being a mother, whether it's being a father, whether that's being an employee or employer, and you're doing the best you can. And so when you are secure, you have a secure attachment, meaning you really do not fear loss. You don't really fear, you don't go back and forth. You accept transition well. You kind of go with the flow. You're able to manage change well, and you invite change or open to change on a regular basis in whatever area of your life, because you don't have a high level of anxiety of abandonment or loss. And so you're able to be balanced, and that's kind of what Patty shows us here. When you are dismissing, right? So you may be dismissing, or another word for that could be avoidant, and meaning that you at some point of time have experienced, you've experienced possibly trauma in your life. You could have experienced trauma as a child. You could have just poor emotional intelligence, meaning that it's hard for you to put your words with actually how you're feeling, and that could stem back from just as a child just not having that security of being taught how to do that, or having a safe place or person to teach you how to express that. So then now it causes you to just be dismissed. You decide you really don't want to attach to it. You really don't want to deal with that emotion, though emotions, a range of emotion. So therefore you just avoid it. And that can be stressful because most of the times when individuals are going through things of this nature, they hold a lot of things in internally. So the outside interior may show you that they don't want to be under you, or they don't want to attach to you, or they don't want to be involved with something. But deep inside in their heart, they really do. They just don't know how to do it and not feel like it's a possibility that they may be hurt. That's stressful. And so that's what we see from Schroeder at the bottom, kneel down. Then if we go further to the right, we see Lucy. So Lucy, she's preoccupied. She has her eyes closed. She's there, but her eyes are closed. And so she, preoccupied are individuals who possibly go from feeling anxiety and then also then feeling secure. So they may feel like at one point in time, all the things are out of order and the world is in chaos, but then sometimes they feel like, oh, okay, I got this. It's not that bad. I can handle it. And so they may go back and forth in a range of emotion and they may have high levels of abandonment, and then they could go to low. And that could also stem from as a child, just not having that, they could have went through some type of abuse. They could not, it takes a longer time to build up a wall of acceptance or trust with individuals because they've had so many different highs and then also so many different lows. And so you can see the back and forth with that. And that's what we see with Lucy. And that's stressful, right? Because that causes you to have to put in extra work to manage life and to manage people around you, and consequences and just situations that may come up. You have to kind of have a grasp of it. And then last, you have Charlie, who can be fearful, right? So he really is just not just disorganized. His response is probably not going to be consistent. And he's just going to kind of be back and forth. He may hide because he's fearful of just what the end may be, and so he really fears being left alone. He really fears not being able to attach, and so he probably is going to try to hold on, and sometimes even in relationships can probably feel suffocated, or the person can be feeling suffocated because he doesn't really have the ability to put words with all the times of what's going on the inside. And so these are the way you attach to individuals or places or things can be very stressful for you, because if you don't know how, sometimes, like I explained prior to, you're having these internal things that may surface and come up way before you are even aware of it in your mind. And so the only thing that you can do is be preventive and be aware and taking precaution and protocol of what does that look like. And you want to be aware of what's going on. And so one thing that I told you before is to begin to journal. How do you feel in these different situations? If you especially notice that you're having repeated cycles of transition and change, these are things that you can begin to implement. And the first thing is just awareness. You have to be aware of what's going on with you. No one knows you better than you know yourself. And so you want to be aware. You want to be aware. And then once you're aware, you want to get tools and help and strategies to how to adapt and change. Because if you can be preventive and make change now, it will alleviate you from having to suffer those physical and mental barriers and effects that I talked about earlier. And so I just felt that it was so important for us to get together and for me to create this course to provide you with just different skills and coping and strategies. Hopefully you're able to jot down some nuggets and implement them and put them into place, and you'll begin to also be able to see fruit and change from those things that you've learned. I welcome you to send questions if you have questions that maybe didn't get answered while watching this course, that if you have questions, jot them down and email them to info@treasuredmindllc.com. That's info@treasuredmindllc.com. And what I will do is I'll reach back out to you and then provide you with an answer and or clarity or tools that you may need. Also, if you are in need of crisis resources or therapy resources, I may not be the person for you, but I do invite you to take a look at my website at treasuredmindllc.com. That's treasuredmindllc.com. I'm willing to shoot me a message and I will get back to you. I can, try linking you with other resources, maybe in your area, other people that may be in your area, or that focuses more on the struggles that you're dealing with, because that is something that's therapeutic to get help, but then you want to get the right help, right? Everyone is not for everybody. And so you want to be with the people in person that's for you. And then also, please, thank you for taking time out to join me today. I enjoy working with you and providing you with just different tips and strategies that you may need. But follow me on social media. Follow me over on social media. I am on Instagram, Periscope, and also Facebook. You can find me under treasuredmindllc.com. You can find me at Treasured Mind LLC on Facebook. On Instagram, you can find me at Shayna Batiste, and I'll spell my last name because it's a interesting last name. But that's Shayna, Shanna, Batiste, Batteeast. Follow me over there. And then once again, my name is Shayna, and I am a mental health counselor. I enjoy working with individuals to be able to provide them with tools and strategies that they need, breaking mental barriers to move forward. That's my goal. I enjoy doing it. And I look forward with being able to connect with you in the future. And so I wanted to take this time to invite you. I'm gonna stop this, and I want to take this time to invite you to ask questions. And once again, thank you for joining. I look forward to working with you in the future. You all have a safe, prosperous day.